Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the vlog, and welcome back to the channel, the Maverick XRS Turbo. Thing's been gone since back before winter started. Had some problems out of it. It does have like 7,400 miles on it, so problems are going to come. Turns out that the problems that I thought it had, it wasn't as bad as what we thought. So this is the first test drive since I've got it fixed. I will go over everything once we get to the Country Roads Bypass Center here on Bear Wallow Trails. This is actually the trail connector that goes between the back road that takes you to Bear Wallow from Route 119 or 73 from the Country Roads Bypass Center up by Fountain Place Mall. So we're actually going that way in reverse just to test this thing out. I didn't want to travel too far from home. This place is only about a quarter mile from me. So, and I haven't actually been on it. So we're going to try it out. I do have cell service the entire way, so if something happens, we can contact for help. I'm going to hop in the Can-Am, and we're going to see what it's going to do today. Hopefully it doesn't give us any issues. If it does, we'll get them fixed. Take a little ride on the trail connector from Bear Wallow to the Country Roads Bypass Center. All right, guys. Hopefully this thing does what it's supposed to. Once I get it over to the bypass center, I will tell you kind of what happened and you know, the future plans for this thing, hopefully. Oversteer. See. So I'm guessing it's out this way. Little fun detour. Not really detour, more just a turn. Man, the view's up here though. Okay. We've got some views. Let's see what we've got over here. think this is part of the trail anymore. I'm just searching for views now. Looks like all this is growing up. Well, let me go back because I need to get so we're back on Trail 10, which is the trail connector. I don't want to veer too far off of this just in case something does go wrong with this, so let's test it out here, then we'll go riding very, very soon and get this thing into some fun places. Where is this? What is this? Huh. Looks like they're building cabins down here. I'm at this mall all the time, but I haven't heard anything about cabins. Trail 10 and Trail 5. I really don't know. So it says we're leaving the Bear Wallow Trail system. I just don't know where we're going. Okay, I know where we're at now. This is actually where I get my eyes checked at. So this is where the road that goes up by it actually comes out at. Right there. Shout out to White Eye Care, Dr. Lucas, keeping these eyes in check. Okay, so Trail 5 comes out on the upper road, so I'm going to guess that Trail 10 brings you down on the lower road. Okay, this does bring you out at the Country Roads Bypass Center. See people parked here all the time with their trailers. Alright, so we found out where these trails go to, and so far the Mavs did fine. But I'm going to go back up here to the top, hop off of this, and then I'll kind of tell you where the Maverick's been and what we've had to kind of get done with it. Alright guys, I found a pretty cool place to pull off and talk about this thing. So like I said, the Maverick's been gone since probably November, December from the channel. Didn't really ride it any during the winter, and that's because it needed some repairs. It started grinding when I was putting it in really any gear. Reverse and neutral would go in fine, but high and low would not. All it would do is grind, and it wouldn't actually drop into gear. My buddy Brandon came and picked it up and took it apart, and the cable was worn, but it actually had slid out of the little holder where the nuts come together and holds the cable in to give it the tension. Well, the cable was stretched, so we went ahead and got a new cable. My stepbrother Rusty picked up a new cable for it. Thank you, Rusty. Shout out to you for buying the cable. It didn't fix it, so it was still grinding going into high and low, and he had adjusted it and everything. We attributed that to an internal transmission issue, unfortunately. While he had it, he put it up on jack stands and everything, and it turns out it needed 4 wheel bearings, it needed a hub, several other things. So I went ahead and ordered all those, and Brandon fixed that for me. So he said that he didn't feel comfortable tearing into the motor and transmission, because in these you actually have to take out the motor and transmission as one unit to get to the transmission. So he loaded it up on the trailer, brought it back to me, and when he was actually backing it off the trailer, he was going to show me that it was still grinding, and it went right back into gear, high and low. Sometimes going into low, you kind of have to bump it forward just a little bit and it drops right in. So weird set of circumstances there. I'm not sure exactly if it just needed to seat incorrectly or what it was. But anyway, it is going into high and low pretty fine, pretty much how every other one that I've seen does. Sometimes I have seen even new ones catch and you kind of have to bump it and it drops right in. So he brought it back and I rode it and he rode it, and we both agreed that the acceleration just wasn't where it was supposed to be on a Turbo 1000 side by side of any brand. It was in high, topping out at like 38 miles per hour. Seemed like it was revving to the sky and just not going anywhere. So I thought maybe I had a clutch and or belt issue. So I went ahead, took all the seats out, took the interior out, took the clutch box cover off. Everything looked okay in there. It looked a little bit dirty. So I cleaned everything up, put the belt back on, and took it for a ride on the asphalt with no clutch cover on it. And it was still doing the same thing. And I noticed that the clutch, on the primary clutch, it wouldn't go all the way to the top where it was supposed to. It was stopping about halfway, but in neutral, it would take it all the way to the top. So I didn't really understand why it was doing that. So I posted on all of the forums. Everybody gave me a bunch of different scenarios that it could be, and it turned out to be none of those things. So as funny as this is, I was out there for about 6 or 7 hours getting to the clutch, trying to diagnose this problem. I went and bought a micrometer to mic the belt. It was 29.1 millimeters. The bottom end of normal is 30 millimeters on these. So it is going to need a belt replacement soon, but the belt did not look bad. And it turns out that was not the cause of my lack of acceleration, as funny as this is going to be. So I stayed up until about 2 a.m. watching videos on YouTube of how to diagnose clutch issues or what the issue may be. And I messaged my buddy John that I actually bought this off of, that has I think it's a Can-Am X3 XMR. He also has a YouTube channel. It's HMX Trails, so look him up. He's got some amazing off-road footage, especially with his X3. And if you look at his old videos, the Maverick here is also on it. But anyway, he messaged me back when he got home from work. It was about 1:30 in the morning. I was already laying in bed, and he was, going down the list of possible issues. And then he says, well, what key is in the ignition? And I said, the gray one. And he said, well, there's your problem. The gray key is like the valet key. It's the lower performance key that limits it to a certain RPM. And so I went down in the garage and actually confirmed that the gray key was in the ignition. It was already, like I said, 1:30. I didn't want to get that side-by-side out and wake up all the neighbors. So the next morning I put the black key in, and it absolutely almost ripped my arms out, the acceleration that it had. I felt so daggone embarrassed about it. But I'm glad that it wasn't like a major issue as far as the acceleration and everything goes. And as for the grinding going into gear, issue, I don't really have an answer for, because it's doing fine now, and I guess that's the important part. So far it has did absolutely great today. I think I'm going to need internal tie rod ends, because it does have a little bit of slack in the steering still. It's not that bad on the trails, but when you're riding on asphalt it is. But if you can see, it's got some slack in it. I'm not sure if that's showing you the wheel and steering wheel at the same time, but it definitely has some slack. But I'm going to go ahead and get this thing back home. I'm going to get it washed and detailed. I'm actually going to test out the winch, because since I've had it, I haven't tested out the winch. And I'm going to start doing some crazier riding on this here soon. Take it up to Rock House and a couple other Hatfield-McCoy trails, and maybe link up with some of the northern guys on some of the outlaw trails. Just want to make sure everything is in working order on this now. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, because now that this is going, I will have both Raptor and side-by-side content coming to you from the off-road world. And I will see you guys on the next video.